Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to Canada Contenders League. I'm Corbeck. Alongside me is a new face. It's Kinder Tutton joining us here for this exciting second quarterfinal here at the CCL. It's going to be Achieve Esports versus Agony Esports here to determine who's going to get a chance to face Newt Neuters in the next semifinal match. And Kinder, what do we have to look forward to between these two teams?
We've got a pretty standard map pool, it looks like. Tonight we're going to Clubhouse, then to Oregon, and then, should we make it this far, all the way to Villa for our final decider map tonight. Both of these teams seem pretty capable. I've heard that perhaps Achieve is a little bit favored. Agony have come in as kind of an underdog from what I understand. I've gotten to cast them very impressed with their abilities. But yeah, kind of underdogs for the night. And looking at these underdogs specifically, rosters for each team. For Agony, we've got Taro, Svok, Sho, GP2, and J-Tree who will be taking the fight to Achieve tonight. And who do we got on Achieve, and what exactly do you know about them?
Oh, Badger Shoe, Gingy V. Stu's World. I mean, these are probably some pretty talented players here. We know that they've got a 3-0 record coming out of the season, 6-2 on maps, 57-42 on round differential. So a solid squad, and I think it's fair to say that Agony is at a bit of a disadvantage here, Kinder, all things considered, mostly because this side is just so talented. But let's take a look at our maps, right? Could be the great level here that's potentially being set up as we get an idea of where these teams want to duke it out.
Yeah, I spoiled it a little bit already, but we can at least see who is attacking and defending first. Achieve going to be attacking first onto Club. That's Agony's pick, and Agony picking Oregon. They'll be, looks like, attacking first as well, interestingly enough. That Agony would choose to attack on Achieve's map of Clubhouse. The Clubhouse, a bit more of a balanced map in the meta, so not super surprised to see that. Not like if it were choosing to attack on a map like Oregon. But I have to say, while Clubhouse and Oregon, they might be these specific map selections of both teams. These maps are so well known in not just this current meta, but in the entire meta of Siege's history. I mean, these are your bread and butter maps. Everyone knows the fundamentals to playing these, so it doesn't really matter which team picks it. Both of them are going to have some really good strategies coming out. And I think that means we're going to get a really fun and nuanced fight to get to witness between these two teams tonight. And as I said earlier, should we get a final map, we will be going all the way to the Great Fields, to Villa, where Agony will be attacking first, which could put them at a serious disadvantage given Villa's defender-sided nature in terms of its general play style. But what are your predictions, I guess, coming out for these kinds of maps? What play styles, what strategies? You know, you probably know these teams a little bit better than I do. How do you think they're going to fare tonight?
I mean, apparently my dog doesn't like this map selection and is echoing my assessment, honestly, because it is the most basic map pool I think you could possibly pool here in Siege, right? Clubhouse, Oregon, Villa is basically the standard bread and butter of any sort of map that you ever see in this game. I do want to point out that, yes, traditionally Clubhouse and Villa in particular are known as very defensively oriented maps. Things are a little bit different here in CCL, and I was actually talking about this with Wes previously on our last matchup with Aerial Arise, which is that Clubhouse actually favoring the attackers right now, as is Villa. Both of them are attacker friendly within the context of CCL Split 1. Oregon, though, remains the second most defensively favored map in the entire pool, sitting at, I believe, 60% overall win rate for defenders. So it's going to be a rough one to attack for Agony Esports. And I think, if they come out of the Clubhouse and they don't get a victory here, attacking into Oregon is pretty much going to put the final nail in the coffin.
There's no doubt about that. Like you said, 60% defense win rate for Oregon, a total of 49 to 32 attacker wins. That is not looking good if you're starting out on attack. That having been said, that is Agony's map pick. So you know that if you pick a map like Oregon, the opposite side obviously almost always going to choose to start defense. You've got to have some good attacker pocket strats. It's something that I like to say a lot about these sort of more fundamentally based maps that everybody knows. Because everybody knows them, you're going to see a lot of standard strategies, but you're going to see some fun little nuances, some fun little tweaks coming out from each of these these different teams, I'm sure we'll see a couple of dark horse operator picks, maybe some strange bans, some target bans into the opposing team. Regardless, even though these maps might seem kind of standard and basic, I think we're in for a really interesting and exciting game tonight. Agony Esports, it should be said, while kind of the unfavored underdogs here, they only lost once in their division, and their only loss was to Shift North, who were by far the best team in CCL this season. But something like a plus 42 round differential, I think. So almost just unbeatable, 3-0 in total. So Agony being the runner-up in a division that's that top heavy, I think really gives them a bit of a shot against the more known Achieve Esports.
Yeah, it does, and that's something to take into consideration as well. That said, I do still believe Achieve with the edge here. I think that coming out onto maps that are relatively well known generally favors a more experienced, more winning team, and I don't see any reason why I would doubt that in this particular circumstance. Achieve probably going to come out here, I would say, with relatively standard takes until the point at which they feel that they don't need to play the standard takes anymore, which is something that we saw a little bit with Aerial Rise in our last match, where initially it was looking pretty, standard across the board, but when it became apparent that they had the upper hand on their opponent, they simply could not resist the deep-rooted urge that every competitive Siege player apparently feels to go a little bit loco and try some things outside the box. So we'll see if that manifests here on Clubhouse as well. Just waiting, by the way, for the final ready up on the players before we hop into this Clubhouse match. Of course, we did mention that whoever comes out on top of this one, it's a semifinal matchup with the infamous Newt Neuters awaiting them at the other end of this. But let's focus instead on Clubhouse, a map that for a long time has been considered a defensive stalwart, is starting to change its stripes here, though, as things progress at Kinder, and it's not quite the defensive place that it used to be.
Certainly not. And adding to that, as these sites, these more standard, the three site TV, gym, bedroom, and church arsenal, they've kind of shifted. There's still your primary three objectives for the defense on this map, but you also have bar stage that after the most recent rework, and I believe last year season 3. We saw the bar stage rework come into effect where the secondary site is no longer in that stock room behind the soft walls with two doors opening straight to the outdoors. It's instead in almost the same room as the bar objective. It makes it a much more defensible site. And while not the favorite site for teams to go to, I've seen it pulled off as a great last second pocket strategy that's really actually turned the tide of the favor of the game and brought some teams that were losing back into favor quickly. So while attackers may have a bit more of an upper hand coming onto Clubhouse nowadays, I think that can be a solid site to go to. And it's a good change up as well for a map that traditionally has only really had 3 viable sites. But looking at the operator bans, Thatcher, of course, he's going to be gone on a map like Clubhouse. I think Clubhouse probably has more necessarily breachable walls to access the site. Walls, hatches, you name it. You need hard breach. Thatcher, he goes together like peanut butter and jelly with your hard breaches, so not at all surprised to see him get the boot. Flores as well, his ability to counter ADSs, Wamai magnets, those are utility for the defenders that usually stop grenades. You've got these explosives, but they're on drones. They can circumvent those anti-nade utilities and get it and do a lot of damage, especially with the shield positions that you can go here. And then what are you thinking about this Valk and this Mira ban?
There's nothing of note right there. I mean, they're the most banned defensive operators in the game. They're the most banned defensive operators in the CCL split. They should be taken off the board quite literally. The operators that almost always get banned, right? That's the harsh truth of it. It's funny, by the way, Oregon has Agony pick underneath it up in the top right corner, which it so often is for so many casters of the game of Rainbow Six Siege. So very apt description right there, just as an aside. But starting off on Gym Bedroom, I think is a very good call here for Achieved. It is the sort of secondary site. It's not necessarily, actually, I guess it was more of a tertiary site in this day and age. CCTV, I think, is slowly but surely trending towards a tertiary site. But for now, Gym Bedroom is still considered that thusly. And it's not a bad site at all. It's a good defensive setup they're bringing. You've got the Frost in here, the Wamai Jaeger combo, the old double Wamai there to keep things under wraps. And then finally a mute for a little bit of drone denial. I expect this to go relatively well, but it's interesting interesting, of course, to see Agony Esports with that attacker repick in play, allowing them to sort of shuffle this up a little bit, namely the Maverick making an appearance here, which will take the Hibana off the board. And you got the interesting potential right there of a Capitao, but it looks like it'll be a sledge at the end of the day.
Definitely need those extra frag grenades, especially if those Maverick frags get burned out by all those Wamai discs and Jaeger ADSs that could be covering that jacuzzi wall. I'm sure that Maverick, with Thatcher being out of play, of course, he's going to be used on that jacuzzi side to help that ace open up those walls and push in from that direction. I would say a much better pick than the Hibana that they initially had. Hibana is great for getting hatches, but your hatches are really only going to be opened when you're playing on the Church Arsenal site way down in the basement. So not super needed here. I'd say that was a great read by Taro, way to adapt and bring a much more useful operator. Otherwise, pretty standard. We've got Finka, who's just become one of the best entry fraggers and one of the toughest characters in the game. She's always had a pretty high win rate, but especially as of late, she's absolutely skyrocketed to the point that we're actually seeing her come out rather frequently in bans for teams that are willing to take her off the board, that are confident enough in their attacks to not need her. But that Adrenal Surge, those frag grenades paired together, they're a deadly combo, and they just might net several kills for Agony in this opening round here.
They very well might. Interesting as well, show here showing up on that Osa. So another very powerful operator in play, one that is relatively new to the game as well. So something that demands respect are those portable shields that can be placed across windows. You actually saw a show putting one down earlier there on camera as Agony Esports kind of positions themselves for the execution that they would like to see in this particular context. Spock here playing very tight against the wall, happy to take a little bit of electrical damage in an attempt to sort of press it aggressively, but it will be finally opened up right there. A good Maverick open on an electrified wall, exactly what you need. And now Show playing sort of the scouting role here, wandering back and forth in front of that breach, just trying to give him an idea of what's what.
And I believe you see, yeah, Show is playing with the SMG as well. A very interesting choice over the, I always forget the name of Thermite's primary, but that is usually a pretty standard assault rifle, not one of the best in the game. But to see the SMG come out instead, large mag capacity, but a bit difficult to control at times. Perhaps Show has mastered that, however, since he's decided to bring it in this round. And you see the versatility of his shields just wandering inside, acting as a pseudo Montang right now, relocating that shield time and time again to set up better positioning for his teammates, doing a great job as sort of a flex support playing on that Osa. But we'll have to be careful. C4 gonna rain out from Genji. Won't catch anybody, even though it goes outside the jacuzzi wall. But here's Stu's World. He's come up for the flank, but Genji, he'll grab one, but not before he's traded out by Show. The frag grenade goes awry. Thankfully, doesn't do too much damage to Show from his own teammate. Stu's World, though, still on that main stairwell, but not for long. Spock manages to shut him down on that rotate. Another one bounces back, though. V-Dot, the Jaeger from below, will grab one. That's just kidding. That's inside of the master bedroom site. He'll actually get traded back out almost immediately. These teams have been absolutely back and forth so far. 2 versus 2. Badger creeping up the main stairs. GP2 looking like they're inside of sight right now, but with very little time left on the board, they're going to have to get this diffuser down. The defenders know that they're in a tough spot. If they swing just at the right moment, they'll be able to catch them off guard. It looks like the first will go the way of J-Tree, though. He's going to grab one. Badger will refrag, and he'll swing back over. It's him versus J-Tree in the 1 versus 1. The diffuser is down. They're going to peek this right here. J-Tree sees him. Can't quite get the swing off in time. They're going to back off and lick their wounds for just a second. It's a dance with the devil right now. Now they're shooting parlaying through the bathroom. So many soft walls and rotates and holes here to be shot through, and not a whole lot of time. Badger has to act quickly. He'll swing it, but can't quite get it in time. J-Tree takes it, and Agony get their first round win.
They sure do, yeah, and a solid kind of finish right there for Agony. They did what they needed to do, got the plant in. It's a shame that they kind of suffered as many casualties as they did, but I appreciate the fact that Agony took a very long time to execute that setup, right? There was no sense of hurry up right there. They didn't feel the need to really pressure themselves to complete some sort of set timetable. Rather, they advanced how they want to, got the setup they want to, got kind of the, the scout in that they wanted to, and particularly the Osa sort of pushing up right there, and then they just made the play. It was a good effort by Achieved, I think, to kind of wrench that one rock around, but it wasn't to be there at the tail end of it, as we are going to go to Church Arsenal. So no more faffing about down there on the tertiary bomb site, Kinder. We're going to go straight into the defensivest defensive points that exist here on this clubhouse map, and we'll see how Agony fares on this one. The Hibana definitely going to make an appearance here.
Yeah, Turo will not be six-picking off of that Hibana this time. Those Kairos pellets, great not only for getting those hatches open, but for stopping potential tricks that could come out should the defenders have decided to bring anybody with impact grenades, which they have not. So they're not going to be trying to impact trick. Regardless, that Hibana will have an absolutely lethal impact. And you see that J-Tree is so confident in the Hibana's ability to get through all of the reinforcements that he just goes ahead and switches off of the ace onto Lion to help control that roam a bit better. Actually, Doki, oh, Lion and Jackal, I should really stop trying to predict while they're in the middle of switching. Lion and Jackal, regardless, lots of great anti-roam. They will be flushing all these defenders that are off-site in a potential SSG or TSM roam. They're going to be forced all the way back down to site rather quickly, or perhaps into the line of sight of the attackers as they pressure towards this building. On the defensive side, though, not an uncommon setup. The Kaid is still on the board, which means that he can make it a bit more difficult for Hibana to get through these hatches. So that won't be quite so easy for her, but it looks like Blue is perfectly set up. And in fact, all members of Agony, they might be going for a rush drop here. They have the Blitz in hand. It looks like, yep, with the Finka Adrenal Surge, they're all going to be pushing onto the site. They swing in before the Dirt player can find out. The plant's already going down. VDOT with a huge triple with Genji, I should say. Another one falls. It's all on Taro. He's still getting the diffuser down. They have no idea where he is, but a swing from behind. VDOT will grab him. And one of the fastest flawless rounds I've ever seen in my life has just played out before my very eyes.
Defenders have disabled the bomb diffuser.
They're being a little too fancy right there, if we're being honest, Kinder. I mean, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. You don't need to be that fancy. I mean, you just showed us a really good attacking round where you're very methodical and you set up everything you needed to set up. And then we come into this round and you go for a rush play. And I'll be honest, it wasn't a particularly well executed rush play. They kind of dropped in and immediately they got cut to ribbons. It wasn't like they did a lot on the backside of that. They just sort of surged forward, got killed, and they even gave the opportunity to get the plant down there as a bit of a stinger on the tail end of it all. So Achieve is just too good of a team for you to be playing that kind of silly game, Kinder. I'm going to be honest, and they're going to suss that out 9 times out of 10, and it's going to be minimally successful. The only way that would have worked is if they were actually running an SSG roam, and they were most certainly not running an SSG roam.
I couldn't agree with you more. There were far too many defenders on site for that to be remotely successful, and we saw that collapse so quickly. VDOT with a great double, or I believe a triple or a quad to finish the round. You can see he's at 5 kills right now. We've seen him be lethal in previous weeks, and it looks like tonight will not be an exception. So with a successful basement defense, though perhaps in a rather unorthodox fashion, we're going to see Achieve take us up to CTV Cash. Like you said, falling out of favor a little bit, I think simply because of how frequently attackers are learning how to play this site. This used to be the primary site for Clubhouse, at least in my experience.
Yes.
And so I think attackers are sort of starting to figure things out. They know how to get through these walls. If they can get the CTV walls open and some garage access established for angles on the catwalk, there's not a whole lot the defenders can do to really counter that.
No, there's not. And you can already see that this is exactly what Achieve is kind of preparing to defend and what Agony is aligning for. A very standard take, right? That's why we see Svok on that Capitao. His specific mission is to get into the garage and shoot those incendiary bolts, those asphyxiation bolts, whatever they're called in this day and age, up there towards the rafters and really put the pressure on. Interesting, though, even as I say that, Svok is taking a completely different position. So it just goes to show you what I know. Usually that's what you would want your Capitao to be doing, not playing along highway, trying to play a little game of Pixies with defenders on windows. This is a bit of a different style of play right here. They've also got Taro, obviously, in a decent position here on the Maverick to go ahead and start, opening up this wall. And as soon as that CCTV wall falls, well, it's sort of an open season attack, right? And there's not a lot to hold the defenders off.
I love seeing the Capitao too. Once that wall gets open, you're right, it's open season indeed. And the Capitao on the back right here, he can use those asphyxiation bolts, like you said, exactly to cut off these defenders. That's going to make it a really difficult pincer play. Meanwhile, though, we do have this push from Jacuzzi, but VDOT and Badger, they've read into it. They're in position, but it looks like GP2's LMG's in a bit better of position. He'll net a headshot to take down Badger. VDOT, though, will at least trade out Show. The Nomad goes down. Who knows if her air jabs were able to go out. And oh, Korbeck, I think you're a little bit prophetic, because down will go Genji to one of those fire bolts from Svok, and now he's trapped VDOT. Poor VDOT trapped over towards the master bedroom side, has to wait for that to subside. He'll run back in, take about half of his health as he swings back into sight, but the defenders, they might be alive for right now, but there are only 3 of them left. They're going to have to play this very cautiously if they want to succeed in closing out this round.
And the big CCTV wall has been opened up, so that's another angle of threat here. You see GP2 has moved up into construction. iTree there on the backup, so they've done plenty of work here to get this open. Taro securing a kill at Senpai Shu, who gets taken down right there. VDOT will fall in the opposite direction, though. He's got a good job going here. Stu caps Taro, who was going for the plant, and now it's a 2v2, and the members of Agony Esports, they do not control the diffuser. They do, however, control an LMG and an AK-12 respectively, and it's more than enough for them to get the job done.
VDOT's position there on red stairs, not quite enough to net them the round. Stu and VDOT, they had the potential positioning there to just hold those angles. They could see from the red stair wall inside of Cash. They had the doorway from CTV to Cash open that Stu could look through. The problem is just that they were not holding angles with each other at the same time. When you're in a 2 versus 2 situation, you know, there's a lot going on that they have to respond to, and I don't think their communication was the clearest there. If they both held the angles properly, given the calls, hey, you know, he's pushing my way, they could have collapsed, and I really think won that round. But instead, the attackers of Agony doing a phenomenal job. You know, VDOT very easily, very quickly gave away his position on red stairs. They swung that corner, and once Stu was dead, and VDOT had gone into hiding, there wasn't much. He wasn't much longer for the world at all. So another great round for Agony. It seems like when they are not just all out bum rushing the site, they can throw together a pretty solid round. We've seen 2, I would say, impressive rounds, given that they are kind of the underdogs coming in here. I think they've shown that they're here to play, even if this is Achieve Esports map.
Indeed, it's quite the case. They're come out really strong on the attack, and honestly, I think more strong than some of us expected. That said, I mean, I do think a little bit of this has been self-inflicted on the side of Achieve. I'm thinking particularly of kind of the rotate cutoff that we saw in construction on the last round. More curious to see how this site goes down now that they've kind of got a measure of their opponents here, Kinder. They're going to come back to Gym Bedroom. They're going to set it up again. They're going to play through it again, and maybe just maybe this time they're not going to be as sort of lackadaisical about certain aspects. Namely, I think controlling that jacuzzi wall, or at least denying access to that jacuzzi wall, is going to be immensely important. It's also fascinating to me, by the way, that Achieve has extended their roam so far that they've actually fortified the CCTV wall. A lot of teams won't go that far. They'll fortify, I think, kind of up to the cash room wall, but actually putting stuff on the CCTV wall is relatively rare. Doesn't seem to have slowed this Agony side down much at all, though.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going for a straight-up construction and logistics push through the hatch and through this outside wall. And here's our jacuzzi push as well. So several prongs on this attack, and it'll start even better. Svok will find VDOT, who's been absolutely the top fragger for his team. A second one quickly to follow a third. Oh my gosh, Svok cannot miss right now. A triple so far on the round. He's taken up positioning on the main stairs. Still 2 frag grenades in pocket. Can't quite find the third, though. Shu will find GP2. Genji will at least trade that back out. The menace of Svok is dead, but it's quickly turned against Achieve Esports. Pinned on the main stairs, J-Tree will swing that. He's put it up in a 1 versus 3 right now, and it's going to be very difficult for Shu to be able to rotate back on the site, especially with the diffuser going down.
Yeah, Shu's not got a lot of options here. Good removal of the bulletproof camera there by J-Tree, who's now trying to swing around the other side, sees those reinforcements, and realizes that it might be in vain. Oh, Shu, of all the worst times to turn your back, it's Sho who brings down Shu right there in construction. And another good attacking round from Agony Esports. Man, I tell you what, Kinder, I came into this expecting Achieve to sort of be in the driver's seat, and they just are not. Agony Esports has taken control of this clubhouse map.
They definitely know what they are doing. You saw that in the chat. Oh, y'all have a frost? Didn't stop them at all. The Logi hatch drop, no frost mat's going to be placed there. Svok got in scot-free. I thought there was a construction hold, but apparently he wasn't able to catch that sledge in time. The rush, well, I would say pseudo-rush from Agony, working out pretty well in their favor, getting them yet another round in a row. They've strung together 3 attacks so far on Achieve's map, and are looking incredibly competent. But, of course, we are going back down to basement, which I would say would be an advantage for Achieve. They have already won here. This is the only defensive site, in fact, that they have won, though that was off of a very poorly botched Agony rush where a blitz got into sight. There were far too many defenders on site, and it was just not the proper time, a misread by the attackers and even going for a rush. That having been said, I believe that if Agony really puts their heads together and focuses this with the kind of methodical takes we've seen on other objectives, I think they have a legitimate chance at taking this site, making this a 4-1.
10 seconds left.
I mean, I think you're legitimately right, Kinter. I think the only reason they lost this last time is because they tried to do, something silly. If they don't do something silly this time around, I think that they're pretty well placed to do some serious work here. What's interesting to me, by the way, is that they brought Svok in on the Fuse. Now, that's not something you see an awful lot of, right? Fuse's pick rate in sort of professional games is not that high. What they've done is they've sacrificed some of the other sort of soft destruction operators you might expect to see, such as the Sledge and their 2 frag grenades, in favor of that Fuse. You do still have the Buck, obviously, who could rip up, the floors of the kitchen, do some very aggressive interior design of their own. But the Fuse is an interesting choice. He's also very easy to nitro cell from below. So I'm curious to see what Svok can actually do with this particular operator.
Yeah, there are 3 C4s on the side of the defenders. So far, though, Svok gets away scot-free, and he'll go ahead and fuse. Wow. Oh, they're going to time it just perfectly to stop the impact trick from coming through so that that secondary hard breach can go off successfully. A great strategy indeed. Very fortunate, though, I should say, that no C4s went off. Maybe they had the drones downstairs to tell them that nobody was in position. I don't really know, but those 3 C4s will stay in the pockets of the defenders, and the attackers have already gotten kitchen hatch open. We're not even halfway into the round yet. Some great progress so far, and now it looks like we shifted into that middle phase. Usually, the way that attacking rounds play out, you got a little bit of action at the beginning where the attackers, they do a little bit of intel work, but they're mostly getting into the building, establishing themselves, especially when it's a basement defense hold where a lot of the defenders are doing more turtle-like positions on the downstairs. Then they're going to use their intel, they're going to drone themselves in slowly, and then we'll see a final push coming within the next minute to a couple of seconds. So very excited to see how this concludes.
An excellent bespoke strategy right there with the Fuse and the Buck, just to get that kitchen hatch open in a very efficient manner. J-Tree here may know that there's a defender hiding in the garage. I don't think they do, actually, because they do switch over to the drone. GP as well, hunting for that lone roamer, but it's Svok who gets the early kill there onto Jinji or Genji, whichever you prefer. VDOT, though, immediately changing it back, takes Taro out of the equation, so that's a defender down and an attacker down early on. That said, Taro, I think, had already done their job, so really it's just going to be up to the remaining attackers here in this final execution.
The Jackal trying to throw these smokes out to provide some cover so they can go ahead and push towards inside Show, using the skeleton key very well to open up his back, rotate into Arsenal. Doesn't look like any defenders are in there right now. If GP2 can get in a solid position to hold J-Tree wherever he is, he's going to drop the hatch. He can now start to go for a plant behind that back Arsenal case, but the cutoff from Church will light up GP2. He knows there's a player between in dirt and one in Church. He'll get swung at looking in the wrong direction, though. Badger will take him down, but not before he's traded out. That's a good trade right there, but Shu will grab one, VDOT another, and things are quickly collapsing for Agony's all on Show right now. He'll grab one, but on a sliver of HP, he sees the head of the smoke, actually manages to grab him. My goodness gracious, a 1 versus 1. Both players on the skin of their teeth right now. That's all they're surviving on. But with the plant down, it really comes down to how VDOT decides to aggress here. He's got to be the one to make a move. If Show plays this right, he could get in a corner with the skeleton key. Instead, he'll go prone through the racks. He'll manage to take down VDOT on his downstairs roam. Another great round, though very, very narrowly close for Agony.
Agony is putting up a really good performance, and I think one of the best aspects I like of how they're playing is they're kind of playing very trickery oriented. You saw right there really good reposition at the tail end of that, going for prone shots through the racks, right? Clearly they had an intel pickup on where VDOT was most likely to come from. They know for a fact that VDOT was up there in the kitchen because he secured the kill. So is it really, really well played at the tail end of the round. Good post-plant situation that, frankly, Achieve Esports, I don't know if they could afford to botch that one, Kinder, like they did. So not particularly good from them. And wow, I tell you what, we talked a little bit about CCTV and I guess Clubhouse in general looking more attacker favored. I did not expect it to be quite this brutally attacker favored, though. Agony Esports looking relatively unstoppable when compared to Achieve.
And I'll give credit where credit is due. A lot of these rounds that Achieve has been losing are really close. We've seen several 2 versus 2s that just go the way of Agony. They've got the positioning, they've got the trigger fingers, I would say. They're ready and prepared to win. We just saw a 1 versus 1 victory. That's at least 3 rounds that I think arguably could have gone to either side. So we could feasibly be looking at a 3-2 right now from Achieve. But of course, that's all in the past. Agony did win those rounds. But all of that is to say that Achieve, they're not out of this yet. They're looking a little sloppy, a little bit bit rusty, and Agony are looking quite well put together, but we're not seeing flawlesses every round. Agony has shown that they have weaknesses. They have chinks in their armor, even when they're not going for
Might
all-out
have
rushes.
lost Kinder
Achieve
right
just need
there.
to
Hopefully.
exploit
Oh, no,
this.
I got lost. I thought I lost you, Kinder. But I think it was just me.
Oh, okay. I'm glad.
Oh,
I'm
no.
glad we're back. I don't know.
Oh,
Not
yeah, I
exactly
think
sure
both
what
of us
happened
might
there.
have gotten lost in the void right there. I'm not sure what happened. Discord with a little bit of a hiccup, all things considered. But yeah, you made a pretty valid point. Achieve looking a little rusty so far in this matchup, whereas Agony, they're on the razor's edge right now. I tell you what, they're not backing down on any of these attacks. It's interesting too. You said, you know, they kind of have the skill over on the Achieve side, and I'm actually going to question that. Their KDs right now not looking particularly impressive outside of VDOT, who has sort of been the lone exception and also kind of been the sole really aggro attacking defender here. The person they've been relying on to sort of shut things down has been VDOT, and he's about the only one that's done anything particularly spectacular.
Oh.
Otherwise, I mean, come on now. You can't be falling for that. You're a veteran player.
Yeah, they're really making me eat my crow right now for saying that they looked like skilled players. Stu sitting in front of one of the most, maybe not one of the most frag grenade drone holes, but one of the most shot at drone holes at least. I mean, everybody sees you in there. You know if there's no ADS there, a frag grenade could easily go through there if the drone read comes out, and in fact it will. Not only do you lose a player, you lose your smoke and all that plant denial at the end of the round. Genji, though, will at least trade onto Spock, who's been lethal so far for his team. A good shutdown for the defense. But 4 versus 4, not terrible for Achieve right now, but Agony, they got the wall open, they've got the CTV window open. If they can take this catwalk positioning with it looks like GP2 pushing into place, there is a player down towards Stock, but oh, GP2 will win it out, and Show will win another. In fact, another one after that. Badger will grab one, but a great double from Genji. Show goes down, essentially a 2 versus 1 now, and it's all on Genji to do.
Genji's going to have to do something very impressive, though, to make this work. Goes ahead and finishes off the kill into Show. Has to play a very cautious 1v2. Now making a 1v1. Genji sitting on that ace. Can they finish it off here? Their last opponent, J-Tree, who has been quite effective with that AK-12 in the hands of the ace. And now Genji just going to play it cautious, waits, holds the line. A couple of shots come in, but the AUG doesn't have enough damage to confirm it. He's getting red pings, though, so he's got all the intelligence in the world to play this out as J-Tree tries to take a flank here. Genji waiting ever so cautiously, knows exactly where their opponents are. Now the double back coming the other way. Oh. And there's the shot. Genji can't finish it off. J-Tree with a beautiful flick to secure another round win for Agony. Oh, man.
Agony putting their opponents in agony right now. 5 wins on attack on Clubhouse. Almost unheard of, especially against a tremendously skilled team like Achieve that just seemed to be on a bit of a morale slide right now. You have to imagine that, you know, Stu World getting picked off so easily through the drone hole of all things. That's got to put your mental in the dumps a little bit, and it just seems like a bit of a landslide going for Achieve right now, and they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. We are on attack pause right now. I believe attack, not tech, so maybe this can be the time for them to get their heads back in the game and find their momentum again.
It's interesting, though, who called the tack pause? It was not Achieve who called this tack pause. It was Taro on Agony who called the tack pause. So that's interesting. Not only is it seem a little unnecessary, because let's be honest, Agony Esports didn't seem like they were in a position where they really needed to discuss their tactics, considering they just went 5-1 on the attack, unless I'm getting my math wrong. It's giving an advantage to Achieve. It's letting them sit down and think about how they want to address their own attacking phase and whether or not they can kind of, like you said, muster up something deep down inside themselves, find that little bit of morale or whatever it is. But suffice to say, Agony Esports has come out and absolutely socked Achieve in the jaw, and they have got to be reeling.
Agony, you know, they're up right now. They're going on to defense, which is arguably better for Clubhouse, but there is still a chance. You know, Achieve, I'm not going to count them out of this yet. I've seen them play before. I know they're not playing like they should today. Outside of Genji and VDOT, it's just an absolute slaughter fest. Nobody with more than 2 kills on their team. But again, I've seen them play before. I have trust in them. I believe that they can pull something back at least, so perhaps that's why Agony took the tack timeout. You know, maybe you're giving them a little extra time, but you're saying, hey, we need to pull out a different strategy, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going for. Their first defensive site is going to be Bar Stage. What do you think they're going to do here, Corbeck?
This is just I think a classic sort of hitting your opponent when you're down maneuver, right? Like Achieve has had a rough defensive half. You take them over to the attacking side on one of the most comfortable maps for any attacker, right? You know all the strats. Like he said, everybody should know how to attack a clubhouse. And then you take them to the most off-putting site you can find, the one that people theoretically know the least about. I think it's a very wise decision, a very fair gamble too on the side of Agony, because if you come out of this, you're on match point. If you don't manage to win this out, you're only giving away one round to Achieve, and you still have plenty of runway to play around with. So I like this choice a lot. I think this is very wise to take them here.
Looking at the lineups too, pretty standard from Achieve. You've got the double hard breach, though I'm not entirely sure how useful that's going to be on an objective like this. There's really not a lot of hard breach for the bar stage. You want to get that hatch above the stage, but I believe that's already open. Perhaps some of those walls across from kitchen, but otherwise, almost everything is soft. The way defenders like to play this is usually very off-site, with a lot of ways in which you can rotate back onto the objective, but hold those long angles. You know, you can see into kitchen, you can see onto the main hallway down there towards toilets. All the way from billiards into strip club. Defenders like to play off on this site, so it doesn't surprise me that they've left it very open, which just makes it even more questionable as to why you'd bring so many hard breaches for an objective like this. Otherwise, though, lots of frag grenades. That's going to help a lot. If they can get around those Surya gates and those Wamai magnets, those could be lethal in a very open and yet positional objective, I would say. You know, you're playing around the bar, you're playing around the bomb chassis. Lots of places those frag grenades can land. Otherwise, not a bad strategy from Achieve on their first attack. But so far, they have yet to impress me, as we're a minute and a half into the round.
A very slow attack from Achieve. Only at a minute and 20 do we see our first kill. That's Badger, who does manage to pick off Taro. But still, I mean, a minute 15, you've not entered the building in too much force, and you've still got plenty of defenders who you're going to need to deal with, Spock being one of them. As Senpai Shu, though, he does pick up J-Tree, so I guess it's working no matter how slow it is, but you're about to tick underneath a minute here as a wave of drones just comes into the bar area, giving them a pretty clear idea of who's where. Show now moving back to reinforce this as well on the pulse as yet another Lion drone ping goes out. That does have limited success, but I don't think it gives them much more information that they already had. The members of Agony Esports are stacked up in the bar site waiting for the attackers to push.
They've got C4s in pocket, at least two from Show and GP2 both. Not unwinnable, but if these frag grenades ring true, or just the bullets of Badger, they're going to find themselves in a difficult position. One goes down, and another to fall with Genji. He'll clean up Show as well. A flawless round from Achieve with a methodical and relentless push into the building. They shut down the roam, force the rest of the roamers back to site, and then collapse with just a tremendous amount of force onto the site. They don't give Agony any breathing room at all. And unfortunately, the bar stage room is not successful.
It was a gamble, Kinder. All right. We said it at the beginning of the round, or I said it at the beginning of the round. It was a gamble. It was not a bad idea to try and just keep your opponents discombobulated, right? And it didn't work out, and that's fine. Now you go back to the standard sites, the one that you know, the ones that you've defended over and over again for years, such as CCTV and Cash, which is where they're going to go back to now. They're running a very standard sort of defensive lineup for this particular site. I think the only operator of kind of interesting note is that Castle, and he's not even that particularly interesting. That's not to disparage the fine character of Castle, but rather he just doesn't change the game that much. His armored panels are going to be very useful for kind of keeping construction open, maybe providing a little bit of protection on that back wall. But then again, Genji is playing on the sledge, or was going to play on the sledge, which does kind of render that Castle relatively invalid, though it looks like there's a little bit of crisis of conscience or even identity crisis going on over there for Genji. Looks like they will settle on the sledge in the end.
5 seconds left.
I definitely think Castle took an inadvertent nerf with the addition of the attacker repick. I mean, we saw that Genji was already bringing the sledge. He's a standard operator to bring to any objective, but if you see that the opposing team is running a Castle And they do also have a mute, which means your standard breaching charges aren't going to be able to get through those castle barricades. All you have to do is bring a sledge. He has essentially unlimited strikes with his sledgehammer. I mean, it might as well be. I don't think I've ever seen anybody fully use up all of the sledgehammer strikes. So it just makes castle almost useless as long as the sledge is there to capitalize. If the sledge does not push into the building with the intent of taking down those castle barricades where needed, they could funnel the attackers just as they were meant to and actually prove to be a pain in the behind. Of course, time will tell if the sledge progresses in that way. We're about a minute into the round so far, and the attackers, they're poised, looking ready to get inside the building. And it looks like it's going to be a bit of a garage push to try to flush out these catwalk players to start.
It's interesting, actually. It's a pretty strange, I think, castle setup. They did not, for example, castle the CCTV window. Instead, they sort of castled some different places, maybe to even enable these kind of run out plays. Yeah, it looks like they're honestly just set these castles up to be a nuisance. And that's an interesting use of that particular activity, which, like you said, I mean, he did get a little bit of a soft nerf, but it can still be very valuable if you put it in the correct places. Show sort of the leading defender here keeps peeking out towards the line of bikes, hoping they can pick up one of the attackers running through, but instead they're going to invest that last castle barricade and just wall off yet another doorway. So a very contained presence here from the castle, hoping to sort of funnel the members of Agony Esports into something that they could like a little bit better. A couple of featsy shots coming out there onto Badger, but nothing too serious just yet.
I'm in love. Oh, show died. I was just about to praise. I was going to say I was in love with the castle strat because he was completely safe as a very timid siege player. I love that feeling of safety that comes from having all those castles perfectly protecting me. But I don't know if that was through the drone hole or the open main door that got the castle. Regardless, he will fall. Scott picks up a second, but traded back out instantly by Badger. He's been quite good so far on this attack, finding almost all of his shots. And Shu adding another catwalk, though, will be getting stunned out. That's Badger from beneath. Nobody there to capitalize with the kills. J-Tree taking a bit of damage, but he's still up there. The Red Pinks coming out in a frag grenade, quick to follow. There's no way he makes it out of there alive, and Shu makes short work of him. It's all down to GP2. He's holding on these red stairs. He's got the shield. He's got a C4, but he's also got 3 players to kill.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, actually, if I'm being honest, because I really thought that the Agony defense was going to look a little bit more tighter on this site, and instead they've kind of gotten eaten alive. I mean, even the standard precautions weren't very well executed. You saw Achieve sort of push in from below in the garage, but only 15 seconds left now. The plant's going to go down here. Badger more than happy to do that. The Nitro Cell searching right there, hits Shu quite mightily, but doesn't take him down. There goes the plant, and now Badger steps up to the plate and tries to secure the kill into GP2. GP2 pushing forward there, the MP5K in hand, gets a couple of bullets in on Gingy, but not enough to really do serious damage. Now has to play against these long sort of balcony edge sight lines and the coverage from garage. It's a very unenviable position to be in for the mute player. He's now getting stunned in there as well. The lifeline charges coming in, and eventually it will be Gingy who secures the kill, and another attacking rounds here for Achieve.
I think part of the problem with that Agony defense, like you said, the defenders were very off-site, and because of that, they didn't have as much, perhaps as much utility, but also as much manpower committed to those really crucial positions. For instance, Catwalk. I think their strategy very much hinged on having Show survive downstairs in that sort of vending machine area. He had the line of sight into garage, but he was quickly taken out probably by the garage player door, you know? If he's not able to get those kills, if he falls, the rest of that defense really collapses behind him, especially once the main wall gets open and cuts off that general runway between garage and between red stairs and into the site. So yeah, losing Show right there, really critical, and I believe how Agony's defense has continued to collapse. An interesting strategy just didn't pan out for them. And you know, it's fun to try strategies like those, and you've got a little bit of space. You know, it's still a 5 versus 3. But if I were Agony right now, I'd be starting to hunker down and say, okay, let's go back to what we really know well. None of these pocket strats, they're not working for us on the defense. Let's hunker down a little bit. Let's get our brains working again together, and let's try to pull another round and put us on match point.
Look, I'm all for strategic flexibility, right? I'm all for that. And experimentation, sure, give it a go. See if it works. Frankenstein, all you want. I just don't know that I necessarily would do it in the quarterfinals when you're the underdog, but I guess maybe there's an argument to be made, right? That if you're ever going to bust out the Frankenstein strategies, it's here where you need it the most. I like this defensive setup that they're bringing to town, though. Taro on Kiaid and then GP2 on the Maestro, two relatively hard anchors right there. Always a fan of Maestro, by the way, who is right now, I will add, the most winningest defensive operator. He's taken that role over from Rook. Still doesn't get picked an awful lot, but when he does come out on the field, he more often than not guarantees a win. Shu, though, trying to prevent that statistic from being manifested, takes some Fok down early. Excuse me.
Svok, it's important to note right now, he was just insane on the opening attacking rounds, but now that he switched to defense, he's really fallen off quite substantially. And if you look at his KD right now, he's got the most kills at 8 on his team, but he also has the most amount of deaths at 9. He's died every single round now. Yes, this is round 9. So even when he's gotten kills, he still is always falling. And so to have your top fragger be constantly dying like that, not only does that hurt your chances of getting kills, it also hurts morale on the team to have a leader like that constantly be getting picked off. Regardless, though, the Sledge going to continue his work upstairs, putting pressure down. Taro going to yeet a C4 through the floor to no avail. Nobody will take damage except Show, actually down in the site. Looks like he was shot from a couple different locations. They do have to watch Blue. The player is poised in the top of that closet looking down. You've got vertical angles. You've got the Blue push coming out, main stairs. Kitchen, it looks like the Hibana is finally getting busted open, as well as Moto Hatch. Just about every orifice you can use to get into the site has been opened in some way. The attackers are in incredibly prime position right now. All they have to do is execute, though. Not starting that off well is Taro finding that first headshot onto Agony, or onto, my apologies, Stu's world. He will be traded by VDOT at the very least. But the attackers, they have a minute left. They've got to find the rest of these kills or at least get the bomb down.
Well, VDOT hunting for a kill right there, tosses the frag grenade over, but it's no joy. He even took the time to open up the hole and everything, just couldn't make it work. Speaking of opening up holes, the floor absolutely destroyed here. The Property Brothers would be proud as the members of Achieve Esports try and find their way to manifesting a couple of kills. Senpai Shu here opening up even more walls. Why not? Open up every surface here, Kinder, and nothing to be left unexposed. Badger now preparing the flash grenades here. They've got about 28 seconds left on the clock, so things are going to have to start happening sooner rather than later. Only one frag grenade left. Badger dropping into Armory and going for the plant, and I don't think they've necessarily sussed this out. Will we see any members coming back to deny the plant? No. Sho gets Senpai down early on. Over comes the C4. It finds nothing. GP2 on the Alda, working the opposite direction. GP2 gets caught from above. You've got to remember the vertical. Now Sho, the only one left alive here on the defense, facing up against two attackers with superior positioning and superior sight lines. He's going to just go for the plant defuse here. He won't hold on to it for long. Gingy playing above knows that eventually Shu's going to be forced to do this whether they like it or not. And there it is. Gingy collecting a very easy kill. And again, Agony, man, they are running the show right here on Clubhouse.
It's looking like it's slipping away pretty quickly right now. Achieve are on the bounce back, and I must applaud the vertical play from that round. The Maestro had all the bullets in the world with that Alda. Incredible gun. I think that's largely one of the reasons that, as you said, he is one of the most winningest operators, or at least he is in my heart. That Alda,
maybe
a weapon of mass destruction, but it doesn't work if you're aiming the wrong way, if you're not looking above you. The Sledge did all that work in the mid-round to open up the floor, and we really didn't see it get him any kills. Mostly it just seemed kind of useless and like a waste of his hammer, but where it really came in clutch was in the late game. That way, any way that the defenders wanted to rotate to get back to that diffuser to go for the counter diffuse, they were going to be cut off and choked off by those players playing above. That's why it always pays to prepare ahead of time, and I have to hand it to Achieve for pulling that off so successfully with those vertical angles in the previous round.
Yeah, I mean, Agony, man, they're speed running not a very good scenario where they suddenly tapered right off. I mean, they, like you said, they lost a little bit of control, and I said they were running the show, and they continue to kind of run the show. I just don't think it's the show that they wanted at this point in time. It's the Achieve show now. Oh man. Anyway, Going back up to CCTV now are the defenders of Agony. They run into a little bit of a traffic jam right there. It looked a little bit deceiving because I think this Vok was actually on the floor below, but it was pretty funny to watch from this angle as they go ahead and set everything up. I mean, they're playing a very standard defensive setup. Smoke a little out of position here, actually holding the hallway. Usually see him stacked up by the bomb chassis, but that's fine. Can play out of this position perfectly well. J-Tree on the Wamai will be holding the rafters, as is to be expected. Now we just get to see how Achieve Esports is gonna go ahead and pull this together.
We already see. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
The wall's already open. I mean, that was like 20 seconds into the round, it was gone. You have a Kaid as well. It's not as though they didn't bring any sort of anti-breach. They certainly did, and didn't pan out too well for them. Wamai, he's going to be playing rather aggressively. He remembers how easily he was fragged out of Catwalk in the previous round that they played CTV Cash Room. Does not want to repeat that. Badger, though, who's been great at opening kills so far on the attacking half, he'll be the first to fall. Spock will grab that opening kill. He'll at least go even, but here we go. Show, he's trying the strategy again, playing with the castles downstairs, and here's VDOT opening the wall, but Spock, you gotta watch for those Maverick holes. You can hear the torch just a little bit, buddy. Watch your head. He'll go down. It's an even man count. J-Tree is quick to fall as well. That's the Catwalk player down. They've got to worry about Show, who it looks like will manage to take down Genji. They weren't expecting him, but I hear a castle barricade has just been busted. He's got to be getting pushed from multiple different directions at this point. He will try to swing his player on the main door. The Maverick grabs him out, though. Great kill from VDOT, and just like that, 4 versus 2 garage control in the hands of Achieve.
Drop the diffuser.
This is savage here from Achieve. Where was this on the defense? Why are we just suddenly manifesting all this evil energy right now? They are holding this in the tank, I guess, for when they had to do the attacking portion of the evening's festivities. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but now it's just the SAS bros left to hold here. Never mind, make it the SAS bro. It's just Mute who's left. Taro gets taken down. Now the frag grenades start to fly in as well. I don't think there's anyone that's going to get caught out on that just yet, but Gingy here has another frag grenade if they need it, and they will not. VDOT there to finish it off on a long sight line, and again, that lower area with those castle barricades, Kinder, that just betrays them. That is not a fun place to be. They should not be playing that, and it's allowed Achieve to even this series up.
I honestly can't even believe that they tried that strategy again. We saw how, well, I would say epically, it failed the first time they tried to defend onto CTV and have that downstairs extension and vending machine. In theory, I like it a lot, and it did net the only kill that they got that round. The problem is, again, they're expending so much utility trying to hold that room, and then Spot goes into garage. He grabs a kill. Sure, great for him, but he's quickly traded out by the Maverick, and the castle's not there looking to try to refrag. He's trying to watch his other angle from the doorway to garage. Just too many angles to watch, and while I like it in theory, it hasn't panned out for them in reality. If they manage to go back to CTV Cash for the rest of these defending rounds on Clubhouse, they need to try something a little different. And speaking of something a little different, bar stage for the second time. I am ecstatic.
Well, I'm glad you're ecstatic. I'm concerned. Nice to meet you. I just don't think this is a good idea. You haven't shown a lot of defensive mastery right now, and I'm not sure taking this site in particular and trying to run with it. The trickery's not there. Clearly Achieved Esports is not intimidated by this bomb site, right? They're not afraid. And on the other side of the coin, you're not looking particularly hot right now. So this is a very strange choice, in my opinion. The defensive setup looks, relatively standard for what I would expect. Interesting to see Show being brought out on the Legion here. I'm always a fan of Legion. I think he slots into a lot of compositions. It's just maybe not the best operator all the time, but he certainly has some advantages. And again, we come back to the room with the vending machines because they just want to give away deaths. They can't resist the lure of trying to fight out of there into garage, and finally they do back off of it as Show goes on a big roam.
Vending machines starting to look like a tertiary site here on Clubhouse. Perhaps not,
Pretty
as they
much
will fall off. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if we just saw all the defenders turtle in there one objective and try to swing back onto the site. Agony have been playing in some rather agonizing ways at times for themselves so far on the defense. But yeah, that's also my question. VDOT, what are you looking at? You saw his head. I thought maybe I was just seeing the outline. But no, I definitely saw a physical head there. VDOT doesn't seem to realize how potentially screwed he is right now. Two players, a rock and a hard place, trapping him downstairs in the basement. He's going for a roam clear. There usually is a player down in the basement, usually throwing C4s or smoke canisters through the hatch from inside of Moto. So it's not uncommon to see defenders down there. So I can't blame them for pushing down there. But you got to find those kills when they offer up their heads to you.
Yeah, if I can see the head and you don't see it, that's usually bad news because my eyes aren't that good. So, oh boy. Anyway, GP2 down here in the aforementioned basement. In fact, I don't think they're the only one down here. VDOT and Show are both down here as well. A lot of action in the basement for this not being a basement bomb site. Instead, it's Taro defending against a wave of drones up here on the top floor, getting intel all the way through, but burning it almost as readily. The FMG9 going to have to serve him well in that situation. J-Tree with a long angle here, watching over towards Bikes, sees if anybody is foolish enough to come through that door, and they're not quite foolish enough just yet. Instead, it's Badger who secures the initial kill. It is onto the aforementioned Taro, but GP2 wins the battle of the basement and takes VDOT off the board.
We see a lot of verticality here, both from beneath and from above, but so far, while, it's an even man count, the attackers have yet to really flush out either of these roams. That means that if they go for a plant, they're going to have C4s and smokes from below, and a lot of players dropping down on top of them from above. So they need to do a better job of clearing this roam if they want to have any hope at all of getting this diffuser down. But of course, before they can even do that, they've got to take out the smoke who's positioned in sight right now. Those canisters can fly out from multiple angles. Badger will rush him. GP2 grabs the kill onto Genji. Stu's World trades it back out, but Shu has just gone down. Another one for Stu. Meanwhile, Badger's just gotten the diffuser down. It looks like there are players above. However, Stu holding that main door and Spock trying to aggress onto him. Badger grabs one, but the trade, they dropped on top of each other. Apparently didn't even notice one another. Stu's World with a phenomenal round. He takes them out and achieved with the first round advantage they've had since perhaps the first round, and they've put us on match point.
Yikes, yikes, yikes. This is not good for Agony Esports. They should not be in this position. Achieve Esports has run the table right back on them. And I just don't really know what to say. Agony looked dominant, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, absolutely dominant in their attacking rounds. It looked like nobody was going to be able to challenge them. And suddenly, Achieve Esports has just mustered some inner strength, put it all together, and smashed it right back the opposite direction, sitting on match point now. And I don't know that Agony Esports wins this. They're going back to bar stage, Kinder. I must be losing my mind. Why would you go back to this? It's not going to work.
You're not the only one losing your mind right now. We've seen this fail spectacularly multiple times. I believe it was a nearly flawless round the first time when Agony lost on this site, and the second time it was a bit closer. They managed to maintain their roam for a bit longer, but when it mattered most, the roamers weren't there to collapse back onto site or to watch their angles. They were too busy being pressured. I was lambasting Achieve for not having cleared them, and they pressured them at just the right moment, making me eat my words yet again. So Achieve, they've clearly got your number dialed on bar stage. Try CTV. Try basement. Your odds on basement are so much better as a defensive site. It boggles my mind a little bit that Agony are going back here, but maybe that's their thinking. They're like, they would never predict us to go back here, and I know they've got attacker repick, but this time it's going to be different, except for the fact that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Some could argue that maybe Agony's a little bit insane for going back here.
I just don't understand the logic behind it. It's definitely one of those bomb sites where it's sort of, you play it once and it's creative, you play it twice and it's less creative, you play it three times and you've lost creativity, right? This is not a site you want to ride or die on. By the way, interesting setup, interesting conflict potentially boiling right here, because there is somebody watching tunnel. Fortunately, Shu is smart enough that he's going to roll the drone down there, so it won't be a surprise. Genji securing the early kill here onto GP2 as VDOT leads the way down the tunnel. Show puts one back the other direction, the distinctive thump, thump, thump of the UMP there, securing a kill, and VDOT swings into armory. Show isn't even watching, caught completely off guard, and the wheels have truly come off of Agony Esports here on the defensive half.
We thought they had the read onto the dirt push. They had that main stair window pushed open for a spawn peek. Perhaps it was just to intimidate the attackers a little bit, but it didn't stop him from pushing through the tunnel and catching Show with his butt poking out. He'll be taken down handedly. And 4 versus 3 right now, especially with Spock, your top fragger, on very critically low HP right now. It's going to be an almost impossible feat for Agony to bring this back. They have the smoke canisters, though. No C4s. They're going to have to time those out very wisely. You see Taro, he's on the central stairs right now, playing a little bit below, but he's going to have to worry about people pressuring from two different directions. J-Tree's at least covering him above, but V-Dot, he's playing below, and he's got frag grenades. If he ascertains his location and cooks a nade for long enough, there's no way the smoke lives to see another day. Meanwhile, the whole rest of the map is being pressured right now by the attackers. We're seeing the upstairs clear. We're seeing the exothermic charge being put onto those stock walls. In fact, right now, the only thing keeping the defenders afloat is the fact that the mute jammer, was not taken out. Now it is. Stock walls open, and all hell is going to break loose.
J-Tree securing a kill right there. The MP5K chatters away. Badger drops down. V-Dot now holding on to the edge of the smoke gas, just trying to find an opportunity. Doesn't see one yet. Shu on the top deck, going to go back on the drone here and provide a little bit of critical intelligence in this 3v3. Vok very low on health right there. Not a lot left for the Aruni to hold on to. A stiff wind will put Svok in the grave and put a lot more pressure on Taro. But J-Tree fighting their way out right now, gets Shu down as well. So the top floor is cleaned up, at least temporarily. J-Tree comes sprinting to the bathroom. Stu's waiting for him. Stu pushing in on the backside. They don't know Stu is here. Stu gets one. Swings back in. Where's the Aruni? They don't know. The holographic sight blocked it. Unfortunately, Stu was there to clean it up and achieve going from 1 in 5 on the defensive all the way back to a map win here on Clubhouse and laying the law down on Agony Esports.
I don't mean to sound overconfident or, self-righteous, but I did say at the beginning, I said to all the viewers out there, I said, don't count Achieve out of this. They were making ridiculously stupid mistakes. We're going to go back to the Stu's World drone whole frag grenade explosion over and over again, most likely. That was just mind-boggling. And yet we see the half split. Not only do Achieve start to bring it back after some failed pocket strategies coming out from Agony, but we also just see the mental completely shift. Achieve, they get those round wins that were maybe, on some cheesy kind of defenses. That's all it takes to put that morale back in the locomotion. It was like the coal powering their steam engine all the way to that victory.
Yes, I agree completely. I worry now for the state of Agony's mental, because that has to sting. You were so close. I mean, you were right there. Kinder victory was just, I want it so badly. And no, you don't get it. That, by the way, was for all our viewers watching in 3D out there. But could you imagine? Anyway, no, it's a terrible loss here for Agony. So we'll see if Agony can recover. There's one more map at least to play. We'll be right back after this break.
Maybe if we took a moment long enough to realize how alike we are, that not everything is broken, 'cause you know me better than anyone by far. But no one makes me feel less alive. We're fighting fire. The way you push my buttons just right. We're fighting fire. When two voices of nature collide. We're fighting fire. Can't help but feel the temperature rise. Fighting fire.
Welcome back, everyone, to the quarterfinals of CCL Season 2 and what has been an incredible and mind-boggling game so far between Agony and Achieve Esports. Corbett, can you recap for those of the viewers that might not have been here to witness the first game, what did we just see happen?
Well, if you missed it, you missed a strange map, because we saw Achieve Esports come out the front gate, right, quite literally the front gate of Clubhouse, and just smash the doors down. They looked decisive. They looked really good. And on the other side, Achieve was not. They were just kind of all over the place. They didn't look like they were playing as a top level team. They didn't look like a team that was first in their group. They were getting killed by frag grenades rolled in through drone holes and all sorts of terrible things. And then suddenly, side swap, Agony on the defense, Achieve Esports just came alive. I mean, they were electric. They strung together win after win after win. And it was Agony who looked completely dismasted. They did not pick up a single attacking round on Clubhouse. So that's setting the tenor here for going into Oregon, which is, I should say, Agony's map pick. It's also, I don't know, they're going to attack again. I don't know. It was not a good performance from Agony. Let's just put it at that. At the tail end of Clubhouse, it was pretty grim.
Again, it looked great for them at the start, but yeah, they just completely petered out towards the end. They had a questionable timeout call at the half split when they were looking super hot. And then, yeah.
They were on 5-1 when they did that attack pause. That's the weird thing.
Exactly. And it's on the half split, too, which is usually kind of a momentum shifter for teams anyway. So makes no sense.
Wait, did I say they didn't? Sorry to interrupt. Did I say they didn't pick up an attacking round? I meant they didn't pick up a single defending round, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. They went into the defensive half on Clubhouse 5-1, and they ended with 7-5. They didn't do anything, and they played bar stage 3 times, which is just beyond the pale of reason. These are things that teams should not be doing. They should know better. So I despair for Oregon. I just don't know what they're going to do here, because this is another map, like you were saying in the break, actually, Kinder. This is another map that everybody knows.
Agony, if they lose this Oregon, I think that's going to be their epitaph on their grave. It's going to say they played bar stage 3 times. That was just the nail in the coffin, losing that right there. And yeah, Oregon, it's good for Agony that they're attacking first. It is their round, or it is their map pick. So I think they've got some strats figured out that they just might be able to pull off given their potent attacks on Clubhouse. But it is Oregon, not arguably, statistically more defender-sided than Clubhouse. It's going to be a difficult one for Agony to pull off these attacks, even if they have the strats down, even if they have the execution down. It's just naturally going to be more difficult for them.
I mean, that is true. And unfortunately, by the way, it does look like we're suffering the sound glitch right out the gate here. Hopefully that doesn't continue. No, we might be okay. Thatcher getting banned early on, that shouldn't surprise anyone. He is, after all, the most common ban in CCL and the most common ban overall in the game for attacking operators. It's worth pointing out the defender win rate on this map, 60.5%. so far in the CCL split. So it is the second highest defender favored map, tied only, I think, no, it edges out Chalet, actually, which hasn't been played as much either. Interesting, by the way, to see Nomad get taken off the board here, Kinder. That seems to me to be a ban that's really meant to try and contain Achieve's sort of wide-ranging attacks, that really full control that they liked to illustrate. But I just don't know if it's a particularly good ban over.
We didn't see Achieve play Nomad much at all on Clubhouse, and I would argue Nomad is one of the best operators to bring consistently for covering run out and jump out positions and windows and doors, just for covering that flank. Like you said, we saw them have a really widespread attack on Clubhouse, and it was really successful through them. Perhaps, Nomad could arguably more useful here on Oregon with these narrow hallways. You can hide those air jabs a bit more easily and thus knock down more defenders more readily. So, maybe that's why they chose to ban the Nomad here. Perhaps I can't even say it's a bit of a target ban, because, we just didn't see Achieve play Nomad at all. But what that does mean for Agony is that if they want somebody on flank watch, they're going to have to pick a Gridlock or just bring an absolute ton of Claymores.
Well, two interesting things, and they're both on the left-hand side of your screen right now, actually. Flores and Mira are both in play here. So, respectively, the second most banned operators overall in the CCL split. Both of them have their opportunity to shine, and both of them are incredibly strong on Oregon. I mean, genuinely, truly strong. Flores, with the soft destruction of those Rateros, is something that cannot be overstated. And then on the other side of the board, there are a couple of very impressive Mira setups on Oregon in particular, one of which you're going to see here down in the basement. This is a very strong site for Mira overall. You might see her brought back out. I don't think on dorms, but definitely on meeting or perhaps kitchen, you'll see her brought along as well. So that's something to keep an eye on here, just as you want to keep an eye on the Flores too. That'll be J-Tree playing that. As you see, other than that, a relatively standard defensive setup. They're opening up elbow here. Badger's going to extend out. He should have plenty of util denial there to protect him in that position, even on a potential close hold, which is what he's looking for right now. Interesting, though, his shield not down yet.
Questionable as to why he's waiting to place that shield. Maybe he wants to get a read on those attacker operators, and I think that would be incredibly wise for him to do. In fact, that's actually his shield inside of Laundry. He's playing shieldless in Seattle, inside of Bunker at least. And questionable, oh no, Genji gonna fall. That just puts us even more in the dumpsters. An unfortunate 4v5 to start us out here. But the defense, they still look pretty potent, but countering them, we see the Ying. Ying, again, attacker repick. They droned, saw that no Warden was on the board. They got the line, the Jaeger. Sure, they can burn those Candelas, but you got smoke canisters, 4 in total, 6 stuns, 2 frag grenades, just so much projectile utility on the attackers. And what this Ying and the Osa can do with their smokes and their Candelas, they can smoke off these Miras, blind the defenders, poise behind them, and rush in and take them out. We already see this Osa posted up on the big tower stairs, and I am incredibly excited to see her get to be used, hopefully to some success inside of this Oregon round.
So am I as well. And you see the Ying Candela is already coming down the pipe here, so already creating tons of havoc. Shu rotating around here is going to actually reboard the door. He's going to take the time to do that, even as the Foxes are in the head house, by the way. Badger there with good shutdown, but here comes GP2 with the LMG. Badger still playing tight, though, on that shelf. Mossberg in hand refuses to give up any ground. Still a 3v3. Senpai Shu now checking down the long sight line with the AUG, but it's actually Taro who's going to go ahead and go for the plant. Can it be denied, though? That's the key question. They don't have any C4 in hand, but they do have Badger here with an SMG-11. Absolute chaos here on this basement attack, and here comes Badger trying to shut it down, but there's still enough defenders left to really close it off. Wow, that was a wacky and wild end to that round.
The shotgun was the savior, most definitely, for Agony. The smoke playing on the bomb chassis. They were already down a man, bear in mind, to start off the round. They got the opening pick with the smoke, the M590 inside of elbow, and then was just playing on the bomb chassis. They knew that the Fink had walked into sight, instantly mowed down the Jaeger, but then the smoke was there to just swing around the bomb chassis and lay flat that Finka. That positioning right there, along with the Mira still inside of Closet and the Wamai inside of Laundry, it gave that sort of, I believe that's the southern side of the map, towards Laundry. That side of the objective was firmly in the control of the defenders. You had Pillar in control of the attackers. Elbow really wasn't tenable because the shotgun was there, as well as the smoke canisters, so you can't get a line of sight or get a push really going down elbow very well. And all those defenders were just able to huddle in sight and then use those rotates late in the round to sneak around those attackers, come at them from behind. And even though the attackers of Agony Esports managed to get the diffuser down, they couldn't stand up to that late game flank from the defenders. A great hold for a 4v5 for Achieve, and thankfully for them, Genji shall return, though perhaps, maybe he'll just leave again. Apparently, they don't really need him to get a round win. Badger setting the shield, the standard shield inside of Trophy, it looks like, so he's going to be hiding behind that Surya gate, as well as opening up the walls into Arsenal and Master Bedroom. So that's a nice line of sight that you can play. If you have a player positioned inside of Arsenal, they can look all the way towards that master door, which is always a point of contention for the attackers as they try to push that primary wall. In other news, we see Genji down on the Roam playing as the Aruni, and Aruni is very nice. She's one of the few operators, I believe, that's left with a passive that has not been snatched away by Ubisoft in the name of balancing. And that passive allows her to make little rotates everywhere with her punching ability. So she'll use those to great effect to open up a little bit of a downstairs roam that could be a pesky thorn in the side of this Agony attack.
Controversial issue you're bringing up right there. Heated, even the whole debate around passives. We'll see what comes of it, but Smoke certainly kicked up quite a cloud. Let's just put it at that. Anyway, Svok here on the Maverick going ahead and pushing their way into Big Tower. The opening into the attic will begin as per tradition. Interesting to see, by the way, Show here playing the Buck. That maybe implies a little bit of a vertical counterattack from below even being orchestrated here. A lot of effort being devoted by Taro to try and get VDOT out of this armory position. Like, they know VDOT is here. They just don't really have the necessarily tools to get VDOT out of there. They've droned him out twice now, so they're, double confirmed that the Jaeger is hiding in that spot. They're actually going to send GP2 in first without the case, but it's Show who falls early.
Shu with that opening pick on the roam downstairs, I believe, towards the kitchen side, maybe pressuring towards that back tower. The roam that we talked about at the beginning of the round already proving to be a little bit difficult for these attackers to deal with. You see Taro, he said, screw it, we're not getting the player out of Arsenal. We'll just try to plant from behind and let him flank late in the round. You see those bullet holes in the wall. Taro watching that angle to make sure the Buck's death, won't result in a second kill as well. Of course, with the Buck going down, the Hibana, she will have to reposition back to Big Tower just to get this wall open. She will do so, unfortunately wasting X-Kyroses that she could have potentially used in other locations. Not only that, but also just throwing off Agony's plan of attack in general, and that'll be thrown off even further. GP2 shut down by Shu. He's had a lethal roam so far. Genji to follow. He's traded back out by the Hibana of Taro, but it's a 2 versus 4, and I don't like Agony's odds.
No, I don't like them either. They're feeling a little long right now as Shu begins to make their way back in, and there's an easy kill for Shu. Will he get the second? No, he cannot. Pulls out the SMG-11, goes in for it, and he confirms it. Doesn't even aim down the sights there. Just brings the gun to bear and finishes off the last member of Agony. A rough ride here for Agony Esports in these first couple of rounds.
We are going to go ahead and see a tech pause, but that's fine by me. It gives us a little bit of extra time to dissect that defensive win for Achieve. And all that can really be said about that actually is just Shu on the roam in Small Tower. He grabbed 4 kills in total, almost the ace. It was snatched away by Genji, who was pressuring the players in tower, but that was a necessary move from Genji to help shut down that attic push and really stall out the attack's wheels in the mud. Both players tried to funnel into kitchen at the same time, but Shu just had the perfect read on them there. We saw he almost completely aligned the stars and took out both of them with a single bullet. Alas, that did not quite happen, but Shu still an incredible round, and looks like we were not able to go into a tech pause for reasons that are not known to me because I don't know a lot about the rulebook. But what I do know is that we're going to the tertiary site. Corbeck, what do you have to say about this meeting room kitchen defense?
I'm trying to, get a handle on exactly what they want to do here. It's interesting that they're bringing along the Echo. The castle, I guess, maintains a certain amount of sense, and it looks like, unfortunately, we will be going to a full rehost right here, so gonna have to hold off just a little bit there before we can give that much of an analysis. From what it was looking like, though, it looked like a relatively standard hold. I think the Echo is a bit of an interesting addition, but not anything super serial.
Yeah, the Echo is certainly an interesting operator. Castle as well. He can, a lot of doors that lead into that objective there, and that castle barricade can do a great number in funneling players on the attacking side into different positions and into different locations, but also just in blocking off the main site. You've got the double doors on the front of Meeting Hall. You've got the door on the back of Meeting that goes towards Big Tower. The kitchen door, especially into Dining, that's always a point of contention to block off. So Castle, he can do a great job of really slowing down those attackers. Of course, as we stated in the last match, that soft nerf coming to Castle with the fact that Sledge can be attacker repicked if the attackers choose to do so, and that Sledgehammer will easily tear through those castle walls and make very quick work of the FBI operator.
Indeed they will. Well, we're going to take a quick break here while they sort out these technical issues. We'll be right back as soon as we can with this matchup between Achieve and Agony.
Why are you hiding? Tell me chance that you put me through. I give it up to you. I do it all for you. Maybe this feeling's overdue. You're uninvited. You wanna hold me close, but I know what you have to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why are you hiding? Tell me what must I do? Come to you, come to you. You're mine, mine, mine. It's right, right, right. It's right, right, right. Right now. Why are you hiding? Tell me what must I do? Come to you, come to you. You're mine, mine, mine. It's right, right, right. It's right, right, right. Right now. Why are you hiding? Tell me what must I do? Come to you, come to you. Cold-hearted, but I'm just getting started. My eyes on the target. No, no. You're the better one, still kingdom come. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty. Calling me royalty. Say I'm dangerous 'cause I broke all the cages. No, I didn't take it. No, no. They let me do that, I guess I'll never learn. Every time I break, there's just more pain to burn. So never, never, never learn. Till the battle's won, still kingdom come. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we got that little technical pause there squared away. So we're hopping right back into our matchup here. Chief Esports up 2-0 on Agony Esports. Two very solid defensive rounds so far here in the CCL quarterfinals. I'm Corbeck. Alongside me is Kinder Tutten, and we have been watching Agony sort of engage in a little bit of agony here, Kinder, as they try and figure out the sort of best way to get a win on their map pick.
Even more agonizing is perhaps the fact that while they banned down Nomad, That flank's been a bit of an issue so far for them. They haven't had any sort of anti-flank or flank watch operator at all. And so you finally see them bringing the gridlock here. Of course, that could just be in response to this meeting hall kitchen objective. There will arguably be a much greater roam. Most mid-floor sites, where you've got a ceiling above you and a floor beneath you. You got hatches to jump in between. There's going to be usually more of an extended roam. So I can't blame them for finally bringing gridlock. It's about darn time. If I saw, who was it, Senpai Shu get another quad kill on an extended roam way off site, I would be pretty disappointed for the side of Agony Esports. But I'm excited to jump into this round. We talked a little bit about Meeting Hall Kitchen before we jump to the break. We see the Echo, we see the Castle. Do you think this is going to work out for Achieve?
Defenders, protect your bombs from being.
I mean, it's it's the exact same setup they showed us before they had to take the tech pause. So I think it's not a bad setup. There's a lot of advantage to this. The Echo provides you with decent intel and kind of some late game, maybe plant denial if you really need that. I mean, remember there was a time too where Echo was an incredibly highly played op, right? Everybody was playing Echo. He was almost a standard anchor pick in a lot of scenarios. Now, what I think is interesting is that Stu's setting up that castle barricade on the doorway between kitchen and cafeteria, and then another on the long hallway there outside of security, basically saying we're not even worried about conceding or defending that side of the map, essentially conceding all of that territory to the attackers. That's an interesting choice.
That's the interesting thing about Castle. It's kind of, the old saying about holes in a game like Siege. Holes work two ways. Well, Castles kind of work two ways. I can't tell you the number of times I've played on a map where I've had a castle barricade protect me as an attacker. Meanwhile, Taro, not having a lot of protection himself, taking a bit of damage, an early gunfight from a spawn peak as an attacker, but nothing super notable coming out of that. But yes, Castle, as an attacker, again, you have that entire side of the map, like you were saying, completely seated to you. You can walk around there basically without worry at all because, there's no other way they can roam or flank behind you. And you've got those castles in front of you to protect you, to give you basically free peace of mind while you're droning into the site and trying to ascertain the locations of all these different roamers and defenders on the side of Achieve. So we'll see if Agony actually uses those to their advantage. So far, though, it looks like a pretty big assault coming out towards the side of Big Tower. And in fact, those castle barricades, they don't want that protection at all as the Osa sets up a Talon shield on that 90 kitchen window. Players already, instead of dining, they've already busted down that castle, and VDOT getting a little pressured right now.
Yes, but who was coming up on VDOT's left flank? That's something I don't think we actually know. There's an attacking operator over there as J-Tree hits a nasty shot through a Maverick hole there to take out the only roamer on the top floor. That's Genji who's down. Taro now going to work here on the wall leading into stage, so just giving them a little bit of room. They can start to maybe chuck frags into meeting if they want to. Meanwhile, both VDOT and Senpai Shu have fallen back into holding kitchen, and there is still an enemy operator over there. It's Spock on the Nook who secures the kill onto VDOT. Shu follows it up though and takes Spock down. Still a 3v4 scenario here. Badger not even able to get on the Yokais, forced to hold out defending this last wall here into meeting and having to give up a lot of ground to do it. Here comes some of the other defenders rotating back around to help, but Showdown getting a kill. It's Shu down once again. Show versus Shu. Show is victorious.
They've been fighting quite a bit this evening, but yeah, we see both of these defenders right now trapped in the back in this double doorway. They do have the shield at least for the extension, but that's not going to extend very much. Shu, a nasty headshot onto Stews, and he'll net yet another kill for his team. The gridlock track spikes coming in. Badger's got the Yokai drones, but he doesn't have the shots. Show with 3 wonderful kills inside of that round. He'll help get Agony their first attacking win on Oregon.
You could say they put on a bit of a show.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't get that one.
Oh, no. Boy. I'll be here all night, which barely means the end of this map, the way things are going. Anyway, I digress. A good attack from Agony, so making up a little bit for what happened in the last 2 rounds there, Kinder. But admittedly, it was the tertiary bomb site, and a lot of that was on the back of Show just playing particularly well. I don't know if it was necessarily strategic brilliance, right? That really got them through. I have to, by the way, just give a little bit of credit to Svok there, who was playing that Nook. She's not a very good operator. She's not an operator that gets a lot of use. So to see them be able to actually turn something out of that was impressive, all things considered. But now we look back to the basement. We've already seen this once before. Stu's here going to come out on the Mira, just as per usual. Badger there on the smoke. Interesting. Remember last time, Badger actually played the elbow extension without a shield. Still had the cover of the ADSs and the magnets, but actually put their shield in laundry. So that's something to keep an eye on here. And we'll see if there's any major attacker repicks on the side of Agony. Right now, only GP2 is showing us one, and it's going to be a swap off of Iana over to Finka. So keeping together the Ash, the Osa combination right there.
Yeah, that was the combination that we saw in the first attacking round on the basement, was having the smokes on both the Osa and the Ying to be able to block off those Mira windows, which could be potentially useful. Now, I'll grant you, we didn't really get to see that play out the last time there was a basement defense. Achieve, unfortunately, Genji was lost to the Shadow Realm, disconnected from the game. But to Achieve's credit, they pulled out a 4 versus 5 victory. So with Genji on the board, that only gives them more power, especially with those Surya gates to shut down utility usage, to potentially stop some of those Ying Candelos, those smoke nades from Sho or from Svok. It can really only help them to have a player like Genji here to assist with this extension into elbow and the rest of this downstairs positioning.
Really interesting, actually, that the swap came out from Taro, went from a Habana to a Buck. So they basically given up any effort to secure the E-Box hatch with that swap. They don't have any hard breach charges on the team. So that's an interesting choice. Indicates, I think, a bit more of an aggressive gun skill oriented approach. Shows positioning of this Osa barrier actually lending itself to that interpretation as well. Playing very tight here up on the top of the stairs and monitoring the situation as more and more defenders filter down to try and challenge that angle. There comes the Nitro Cell, but Sho is able to escape intact. The same cannot be said of Svok, who gets one. VDOT getting the other one. What are you doing, Shu? Trying to rush into that. Taro and Sho respectively getting some kills, but it's not done yet. Gingy there with the rifle getting another one into the 1v1, gets the knock, and then the finish on GP2. And again, it's another one of these rounds that we've seen a couple of them like this, right? Where they're just all of a sudden everybody's dead, like in about 30 seconds. It's a weird tempo to this Oregon map.
Yeah, this tempo is hitting about 200 BPM right now. The latter half of that round, back and forth, I could not keep up with the kills. Suddenly there's a knife going out onto Shu. There's a swing coming from Genji. The Osa with her shield up is dropped from the side to swing with the DMR into sight. Genji's positioning in Freezer proving to be too much for the attack to handle there. I really think he was able to, not single-handedly, but mostly handedly pull that round back by himself. Certainly, his other defenders assisted him in that, putting pressure onto the Osa, forcing her back for a second so that the defenders could try to claw a bit of something back there. A good team effort, but certainly a great effort from Genji. Once again, it seems like they didn't need him to win the first time on basement, but it certainly helped having him to win that second time. A fun frag fest of a round, but now we're going back up to the top floor, and I get the feeling we're going to see a bit more of a methodical, slow take kind of siege attack coming out.
I mean, just to know, Genji was playing a Rooney, so technically it was single-handedly, all things considered.
Man. Just missing all of these right now. I could have. Oh man.
5 seconds left.
I love Rudy, actually. She's one of my favorite characters. I think the ability to punch through walls is genuinely super cool and really fun to play. But anyway, I digress. Let's take a look here at the attacking setup that's being brought by Agony Esports. The Nook making an appearance again. That's Svok. This time you've got J-Tree on the Flores one more time. We haven't actually seen a ton of success coming out of those Roteros. Shu has been pretty much locked into playing mute here, partly, I think, for the reason that they have to deny some of the advantage that they would otherwise get from J-Tree. So that's something to keep an eye on here as Svok goes to work, choosing basically the same attack angle, though it is, I think, going to take him a little bit longer to actually get engaged in any sort of combat this time. There is one roamer in the kitchen, though, and if it holds up, the hell might allow them to actually catch them off guard, and it does. Svok securing the kill right there onto Shu early on.
Nook is the attacking Cav. I believe the silencing of the footsteps, like you said, from the Hell Presence Reductor, as well as the inability to be picked up on the cameras. That's going to put Shu in a difficult position. He had a great extension the last time he played on this site, playing inside of Kitchen. He had a quad kill, actually. He won't have any kills this round. Neither will VDOT, though. He tries for an aggressive jump out the window. He hasn't quite been as explosive this game as the last time. But, oh, another freebie for Taro right now. The side of Achieve just getting too aggressive, and Agony getting the perfect timing to take down these kills. But the swing from the Aruni, speaking of perfect timing, nade can't even go off, will be dropped and explode post-mortem on Taro's, or on Svok's dead body. Meanwhile, Genji and Badger not in the best position right now, but they do at least have some smoke canisters and a nice long-range DMR. The push is coming to shove here. Sho's moving into sight. He's got the Talon Shield set up, but not before he's spelled. Genji with a long angle yet again. The DMR is super effective against the Talon Shield, apparently. The Flores still on the board, as well as the Finka. That's more important to note. She's got a frag grenade in pocket, 2 Adrenal Surges left, and a lot to do.
And at least that frag grenade might be able to make a difference if it's used correctly here. That said, Badger and Genji, they look like they've got a relatively good lockdown here. They've got the angles covered that they need to. And there it is. J-Tree finally opening up a little bit of alternative side pressure here as Taro begins to take the lead. There's the swing coming out. Genji cannot be stopped. Gets another kill. It's Taro who goes down this time, but all of a sudden, J-Tree and GP2 right there, combining for a series of beautiful kills to end that round before it got any worse.
The attackers did a phenomenal job of rotating off and pushing from different directions. Can you imagine if all of them had tried to funnel through that door from Trophy into Games Room? I mean, we saw the Osa attempt it, and she was dropped like nothing. They knew that they would die if they all pressured from the same direction. So even once the man count advantage was equalized, they had the players in position, one pushing from that dorm's window, one pushing from that master door, and the defenders just had too many angles to watch. A great use of space from Agony and a great late round adaptation will net them their second attacking victory so far. If they can take this next one, I think they've got a really solid chance at bringing this Oregon map they've chosen back into their favor.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
I mean, they're not. This isn't looking like it did at the tail end of Clubhouse, right? Like, let's be honest. They look like they're in a bit better shape right now. They are going to swap over to the defense sooner rather than later, which should theoretically convey an advantage for Agony, right? We based on statistics, it should theoretically give them an advantage. So I think that's something to keep note of. And I kind of said to you in the break, actually, I'm going to bring this up, Kinder, that, you know, we were either going to look at a very long Oregon or a very short Oregon, depending on how Agony was feeling about things. And at the moment, I'm beginning to think that we're trending more towards the long Oregon right now, because Agony doesn't look like a team that's beast, right? They look like a team that's, you know, still in this fight, still wants to make a bit of a difference here, and is maybe just struggling to find the best way to pick certain locks on this map, but is certainly not giving up. And Shu, oh no, gets caught by a little bit of a spray from Taro, who, by the way, I don't think has any idea of what they just inflicted, but still did manage to take about half of Senpai Shu's health.
And right now, we're about to see what is known as a classic gold ranked strat on PlayStation 4, except it will be executed by people that are far more coordinated than any of my friends or myself or anyone that we've encountered in the gold tier on PlayStation 4.
They are going to do this.
The Amaru, she's going to come through Kid's window. The smoke rotates off. The SAS shotgun not primed and in position. You've got the Lion Scan, the Doki phone call, the Finka Adrenal Surge. All of it's going to go off simultaneously. The attackers have, but the defenders have no idea. Svok jumps in. He'll grab one, but they're not quite in position to grab anymore. Meanwhile, though, Taro, he's got the diffuser down. This extended roam has been absolutely abused by the attackers of Agony, and even though they'll drop Taro and J-Tree, they still have the diffuser down and have now set themselves up for a defensive position.
JP2, though, fighting it back, gets one. Genji again can just not be stopped with this tact rifle in hand. Gets Svok as well, and now it's a 3v1. And yet another lightning raid strat here coming out from Agony Esports. And unfortunately, this will avail them none. Good swing from Sho, gets two. Sho can't shut it down, and oh, Sho deserved that, but VDOT denies victory and secures the defuse, and another round on the board for Achieve, but by the absolute hair of their chinny chin chins right there.
Yeah, Achieve doing their best to attempt to snatch defeat from the claws of victory. A 3 versus 1. What's the best strategy you can do? Line up your counter diffuser with your cover player. That's the best possible idea. The DMR just rings true for show. He's been on a tear so far this game. Nearly succeeds in doing it yet again for his team. It could have been an even half right there. That was really anyone's game to win. But great discipline from VDOT, waiting back. Once he knew the two players were dead, he went for the push, assuming that show, maybe he's a little caught off guard. He's like, I just got these 2 big kills. I got to look for this player. I think VDOT did a great job of using the time that he had to execute that final kill there. It was a very close one, though. Again, really think it could have gone either way. But Achieve will take it a 4-2 split. But honestly, defending on Oregon to get a 4-2 split, that's to be expected. And for the fight that Agony put up to make it as closer, I would say, than the score shows, I think we're in for a real treat on this half change.
I think we are in for a real treat. I think that Agony Esports is genuinely positioned to win this just based on the last couple of rounds. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for some spectacular play there by Genji of all people, we probably wouldn't have seen Achieve Esports walk away with a couple of those rounds. So that's something very much to keep in mind. And if you look across the kill distributions on the left and right hands of your screen respectively, you see that it is a lot more lopsided on the side of an Achieve, whereas Agony Esports is maintaining a relatively even clip across all of their operators.
Definitely important to notice. I'm glad that you brought that up. You see that Agony's wins right now are coming off quite a bit more from team play than from individual character clutches. I mean, the amount of times that we said Genji with the DMR landing a kill over the last couple of rounds, I mean, you could have turned it into a drinking game or something, in all honesty. It was just so incredibly prevalent. So Genji doing the most for his team right now. That DMR, fortunately for him, can be brought on the attack as well as the defense, though he is going to opt for Finka. That great entry, but not doing great on the entry today. GP2 grabs one. You know what? He gets traded out by VDOT, but I would take that trade any day. Down goes the top fragger of Achieve, and meanwhile, VDOT is left to stall inside of Small Tower, while Shu, on the other hand, he'll grab a kill onto Svok with the LMG, the great player of Svok, not having the best game, but having an okay one. He'll be shut down. The attackers at least trade out Genji for 2 kills of their own, but honestly, with how huge Genji's been, I don't know if killing 2 players is enough to really consider that a trade back.
Hard to say. I mean, still a 4v3, but if you're going to take fights when you're down a man, you'd probably rather do that on the defensive side, all things considered. Show's still alive, by the way, still kind of roaming around out here on the lower floor, so needs to be a bit careful. Taro playing off of these murder holes. I don't think they have any idea that Taro is up here, or they might have an idea he's up there. I don't think they know that he can see through the floor in particular, so that's something they're going to need to be very careful about indeed. But it's Stews who gets Show with a knife. They didn't expect that. And now the members of Achieve, they smell blood in the water. They're slowly but surely going to coalesce here. And it looks like, by the way, Stu's actually snuck up on Shno and just stabbed him in the back. That's pretty crazy. Taro, the murder hole works out, finally.
Show getting not Show getting the stab back. Stu getting the stab onto Show. I believe Show was the one playing the knock when he was on attack, getting the knife possibly onto Stu. So a little bit of trade backsy there. The sneaky play coming out from both knocks on both sides. You love to see it work for an operator that's generally not as successful at finding kills or finding a whole lot of play inside this level of Siege. But speaking of which, here comes the knock. Just going to go in for a swing and somehow wins it. J-Tree was in prime position there, but Stu's rolled a little bit quicker on the draw. Taro deep inside Kids, but not for long. Stu shuts him down with a nice headshot from the FMG to get yet another kill or yet another round win. Excuse me, for the attacking side of Achieve.
That FMG does have the highest TTK of any attacker gun, so you can demonstrate it in real life. Fast speed indeed. Achieve Esports now on 5. Esports wrenching this one back around in the defensive half are beginning to look maybe a little bit misplaced here, Kinder, though certainly not out of the realms of possibility just yet. We are going down to laundry supply. Interesting, by the way, that Agony is choosing to not bring Mira along to the party, going for a more traditional defensive setup down here instead. Perhaps they simply don't feel comfortable playing with Amira because, after all, she is banned so much.
That is entirely possible. It's similar to teams sometimes that are the first to ban on maps like Oregon Clubhouse. Sometimes they won't ban Thatcher simply because they feel so confident that the other team will ban him. And sure enough, you see those people starting on attack, those players starting on attack. that'll say, you know, Thatcher would be huge to have on attack because he let us get the walls open so much faster. But in all honesty, we're so used to playing without that operator, we might as well just ban him out as well to keep things even and in the know. So in a game that's very meta heavy and strat heavy like Siege, you got to know your strats ahead of time, stick to them, and play them. Doesn't surprise me at all that perhaps the Mira stays out of the hands of Agony, given, like you said, that they probably just don't know how to play with her or play around her necessarily. But what they do know how to do is set up a potential spawn peak with GP2. He's got the pistol out, which, you know, surprisingly, with that little red dot sight on it, it's quite a force to be reckoned with when it comes to spawn peaks, at least in my experience. Of course, he also has the MP5, and he now has a position inside of T3. We'll see how long he's able to go undroned, how much of an impact he's able to have as the attack starts to make their way towards the building.
It's a very dangerous position to be in, actually, where GP2 is over there. It's just far too easy to get cut off in that big tower spot. Now, that said, Achieve doesn't really seem to have put any focus onto it, so they should be okay over there, at least for now. VDOT, by the way, tearing up the floor a little bit, will bring out the drone. Shu watching as well on a different cutoff, making sure that there are no roamers here on the top floor. This seems to be a very kind of methodical clear that's being performed here by Achieve before they begin to move downwards towards the basement. So a little bit different, by the way, Kinder, than what we saw coming out of Agony, who I feel like were much more direct in their attacks. This is more in line with what we've seen from Achieve on various other, you know, attempts, like we saw in Clubhouse, a very methodical approach to this.
Certainly, yeah. There was not even a remote freezer push at all when when Agony were attacking, excuse me. They were all out bum rush the back tower. Laundry and freezer were just no man's land for them. And you see how Achieve, they want to make sure they like their multi-pronged attacks. They don't like to flood, they don't like to rush, like you said, methodical. That's one of the best ways, I would say disciplined as well, when it comes to knowing how to execute. And it looks like, though, speaking of execute, there might be an execution back here on tower. The player of GP2, he's fallen off T3 and J-Tree's rotated up below. They want to pincer onto Genji right here, but Badger, he's establishing a cross on the soft wall. He's got the upstairs angle, but he can't quite see J-Tree coming from below. Genji, he's aimed up a little bit too high. If the player swings from the downstairs, I don't believe Genji will catch him in time, but in the meanwhile, it's just a bit of a staring contest, and neither player really wants to make the first move. GP2, well, the canoe go down. Genji gets down, but he can Adrenal Surge, not before J-Tree finishes him off. We're back in an even man count trade. Obviously, I would say worse losing Genji, your top fragger, your literal fragger with frag grenades, and your Adrenal Surge user, but still an even man count.
What a brutal trade that they orchestrated right there. I think that was entirely intentional. GP2 was the bait, and then the trade going out for the Finka, which I think is genuinely a good trade. It's one that I think I would have considered making if I was the IGL in that scenario. That said, though, the big tower side of things now seems relatively firmly in control of the attackers. So this is something they're going to have to take into account, as here comes the Sophia walking down the stairs, LMG in hand. Running out of time, though. They've got to make some sort of execute here. They've got smokes. They've got cameras to worry about as well. They've got a kill there onto Stews, and here comes Taro at point blank range. Gets two. Doesn't need to finish him off with the SMG-11 because instead it's J-Tree playing from the back wall who secures the final kill and a decisive shutdown of Achieve on the attack.
Agony looking hot in that previous round. Achieve just getting stalled out. They tried to go for that expansive roam that they always like to do on their attacks, clearing out. They wanted to get pressure onto that security player. They wanted to get a presence inside of Freezer, and yet they just spun their wheels in the mud. No players were in Freezer. The final push came completely from Bunker and Big Tower. That's where all the attackers flooded in from. Surprising to see that all the effort and the work they put into clearing the security player and trying to get Freezer a bit more open was in the end all for naught, and that ultimately screwed them over. They didn't have any player to use that soft hole from Freezer into Laundry to put pressure on the backside. They couldn't put pressure on the Freezer players. They had no hope of getting in and getting the diffuser down. Even when the player of Habana tried to get that diffuser, that was Badger, trying to get the diffuser down in the doorway from E-Box into supply room, there was no hope. The freezer door was right there, completely open. A great defense from Agony. I liked the call as well for GP2 to sack himself off to get that opening pick on the Genji, and ultimately just a botched attack and execution from Achieve.
Well, Agony needs to pick up at least 2 more rounds to bring this back towards equals, and they could do so. We've seen kind of two relatively, I don't know what the right word is here, disparate rounds, right? One very, very decisively for the attackers, and the other one not so decisive for the attackers. So make of that particular puzzle what you will. Meanwhile, Stu's here bringing out the Zero. That's an interesting choice. We've only seen Zero, well, we haven't actually seen Zero played here between these two teams tonight. Saw him very briefly in the earlier match of the day where he achieved almost nothing. Show now going to go ahead and go for the reinforcement here. Not going to put up the mute jammer on that wall, though. Basically surrenders the idea that the wall will be opened up, and instead Kinder just kind of falls back and puts it in a place where it can at least slow down any drones that come out. So a good sort of defense in depth strategy being illustrated right there on the defensive side. Two roamers on the lower floor as well.
I was going to say, it looked like the defense was trying to play some sort of prevent defense, but instead you've got Svok, who's already inside of the security corridor, pushing towards the main lobby. He's looking for those angles. He's looking for the feet to dangle down from those rappelling over the main door, but it looks like the attackers of Achieve, they're wise to that. They're not going to surrender themselves quite so quickly. Instead, they're going to go for that upstairs push. Svok does not have a SV4, but what he does have is a door open behind him and several cross angles set up. The upstairs window, that will cut off the rotation. He sees the Zero Cam, but he doesn't want to shoot it. It could spot him at any time. In fact, he'll finally go for the pistol with it to try to be a bit more quiet about it. But his position, even if it's not known, it's very well settled in here. He's in quite a pickle, trapped here on these main stairs. Attackers able to flank him and cut him off from any which way.
Indeed, that's the case. Show here now taking over the attic defense, SMG 11 in hand. That's the only tool he's got. It's a bit of a difficult fight, actually, for your average mute player. Though if you're good enough with that SMG 11, you can obviously make it work. Taro here, watching an opposite angle, needs to be a bit careful. I don't think there's anybody that can necessarily remove that castle barricaded behind him immediately, but the position still has some vulnerabilities. Stu there using his Gone 6 on a green barricade, which is always a little bit painful. Ask Chief about that sometime. And now Badger beginning to gather the intelligence they need to ensue the attack, but only a minute left here. Still a 5v5. No real progress from either side.
And as you say that, Show, he'll find the shotgun to shut down Stu, not shoot too many S names in this game. VDOT also taking a hefty amount of damage. Achieve looking like they're in a difficult position, especially as those X-Kairos pellets impact tricked off the wall. But a swing from Badger, he said, don't let me in the wall, just let me walk through the door. He'll take him down, sure enough. Down will go J-Tree, the smoke with all of his canisters in pocket. I would take that trade any day of the week. Of course, killing players is one thing, but executing and finishing out the round is another entirely. Badger, he now has this attic line of sight opened up, but there are no players left inside of attic. It looks like they've all rotated off. Show will grab another onto VDOT. The headshot there. Genji, he'll net another one. Or actually, that's Shu, not Genji. He'll grab one, though, too. He heard his name called, and he wanted to get in on the action. Show dropped as well. And Achieve have quickly turned around this round and given themselves yet another victory, pushing themselves onwards to match point.
Yeah, they have put themselves onto match point. This might be it here. I was really hoping that Agony could muster a turnaround, but the tempo of this match, like I said earlier, is just so up and down here at Kinder. It really has been all over the place, and it looks like, at least for the moment, Achieve has reestablished a positive attacking tempo, and Agony doesn't seem to be able to really rise to the occasion. They're going back to kids' dorms again. They're bringing along essentially the same team composition, and I just don't know that they're going to be able to hold it off. They weren't able to do it last time, and I don't necessarily see why this time would be any different.
I think part of the issue there in the late game, Agony, they had the 5 versus 4 going into the dying seconds of the round, and yet they still somehow lost it. I think a big part of that was that they lost the player inside of Attic. At least to my knowledge, I don't think they had anybody in there. Now, granted, they were unable to impact trick the rest of those X-Kairos pellets to the Hibana of Badger. He had that angle established from inside of Trophy, but nonetheless, you could stick a defender right on that wall near where GP2 is, inside of Attic, where Show's currently walking past. That wall right there, they don't have an angle on you necessarily, watching from inside of Trophy, and that way you can still swing the player from inside of that master bedroom closet, because that was Genji in there popping off and taking lives with that LMG, also with the assistance of Shu. But at the very least, you could have shut down that closet player if you'd had the long angle from Attic. They seeded it a little bit too quickly, tried to play a little bit too conservatively in the late game. Ultimately, I think that cost them. Though I will say they had the opening pick last time. You know, it wasn't a completely lost round. It was a little bit close until the very last seconds. So maybe they can turn it around and do something on the upstairs objective this go around.
Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. I mean, this is going to be the real test here of Agony Esports as a team. When your back is to the wall in a playoff situation, you absolutely have to achieve a win. You've got a relatively favorable defensive bomb site to play with. You got the tools you need to make this happen. You just actually have to make it happen, and that's easier said than done. Already, map real estate being taken here by Achieve Esports. The big tower going down. Taro, by the way, opening up that murder hole yet again down in the kitchen. That has paid off before. Show moving over to the attic. He will once again be the man in motion here. He's actually going to go for the effort of putting down the mute jammer on the wall this time. He's actually going to leave 2 mute jammers in the attic. So really trying to lock that down and really prevent them from droning in. He's also got a nitro cell prepped and ready to go to defend into trophy. So a good setup defensively here from Agony so far.
I think if the nitro cell can ring true this time, it was thrown out prematurely in the last round, but if it rings true today or in this round, I think that could be huge for Agony Esports. That could put them over the edge, especially if they shut down Shoes LNG, take out Badger before he's able to get this closet wall fully open. Actually, it looks like it's already soft. The defender's going for a much more aggressive hold right here, trying to watch these angles and force the attackers into difficult positions. Of course, these X-Kairos finally going off. Nobody there to impact trick. That will be open, but J-Tree taking a very aggressive stance, completely crouched and prone right next to the wall with that SAS shotgun, the M590. Anybody that walks through there and isn't quick enough on the draw will get blown away, but GP2 trying to blow people. Well, I've got news for you. We're already on the caster cams, and right now I think you're kind of in the void. But I'm sure you'll be back with us in just a second. So to go ahead and spoil the ending for you, I have no idea who killed whom. It was a 5v5 when we last left off, but Achieve Esports, they took it, they closed it out after an insanely close clubhouse. They're gonna make it a 7-3 on Oregon. Corbeck, welcome back to witness the achievement of Achieve and winning their first quarterfinal.
I'm a little disappointed that my narrative didn't pan out. I'll be honest. I thought I was right. I thought that they were going to hit a nasty nitro cell and, there'd be Zofia painted all over the wall of trophy and they'd be able to win that one out. But it was not to be. You know what? I'd like to say that this is particularly surprising, Kinder, but I don't think it is. After what we saw at the tail end of the clubhouse, where Achieve just turned it around and turned it on and never slowed down. I think this was probably the inevitable outcome, and Agony was always battling back. I think this was a little bit longer map than I thought it was going to be, because I kind of imagined that Achieve was going to come out here and just absolutely wipe the floor with Agony. Agony put up a little bit of a fight, but really it was more like the death throes of a dying scorpion and less the actual efforts of a living, breathing opponent.
Agony, to their credit, a lot of the rounds that they lost were very close. Now, some of the rounds they also won were pretty close, but there were several 1v1 or 2v1, situations on Oregon that I think easily could have gone in their favor. So I'll give credit where credit is due. Agony, a great showing against Achieve, arguably a much more experienced roster, I would say. So for Agony to put up the fight that they did, I think that's pretty respectable, especially losing that first map. You put up at least 3 rounds on the second one, not great, but it's a good showing, and I hope that Agony's roster will stay together, refine, work out some of the kinks, and come back even stronger for the next season of CCL.
I hope so as well too. I hope to see them in Split 2. I hope to see them really put in another good performance. I think they are a good team. I think they have a lot of positive qualities. I think it's just much like the opponents that we watched in the first match. I think it was Seer Esports who lost that one. I think there's just a lot to learn for some of these teams, and this is as good a place as any to learn. Just as a reminder, this means that Achieve have punched themselves a ticket to face Neuters in the semifinal. Our other semifinal is going to be Aerial Arise versus Shift North, which promises to be a very exciting matchup. You'll be able to see both of those on Wednesday, but here on Monday, for now, for the CCL, that will do it for us. I've been Corbeck. Alongside me has been Kinder. Thank you so much for tuning in, and from all of us here at Northern Arena and CCL, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful evening.